afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you're seeing this after last week. For those of you who didn't watch last week's one, I'm Adam. I'm the head gardener here at Blarney Castle and Gardens, and we're being filmed by Paul, our social media and marketing manager. And we're just trying to give you an idea of what there is around the grounds and gardens, other than the castle itself and the stone, obviously, and just bring something to you in your own homes, as you're not able to get to us at the moment. So you'll see, I think if I show you the map, just to bring things into context, this is the overall estate, and the main entrance area is down here, but this week we're actually in the rock close area, which is here. Now, a few people said last week that the map was very handy just for getting bearings and seeing where we were on the estate. It's a big estate. There's over 70 acres of gardens, several hundred acres of grounds. You can walk around 5 kilometres on the various tracks and trails, and it really is. There's a good day out for the whole family here. There's plenty to see. So hopefully when we do finally get to reopen, people will be keen to get out and about, and we'll be one of the destinations that people want to get to, and we'll welcome you back very, very enthusiastically, I'd say. But anyway, I'll close this now. And the rock close are the oldest parts of the gardens that we know of. They date to the 1750s, but historically they go back way further. And I'm standing in front of what is said to be a dolmen, and you'll see it's resting on one stone here, and across this side there's a second one which it's slipped off. And the dolmen is said that in Sir Charles, the current owner's father's time, you could rock this dolmen with one hand. Now, with health and safety nowadays, I'm not so sure we'd get away with that type of thing, but it's a great story, and I think the dolmen was the influence for many of the developments in the upper rock close area. Before we go up there, I just want to show you one plant down here, which is a very large bamboo. Totally unsuitable for your own garden, but it's well worth showing anyway. So you saw with Paul panning around the size of this thing. This is it's quite a mouthful. Chiminobambusa tumminissinoda. I'm not even sure I said it right. But you see the nodules all the way up. It's quite distinctive bamboo, and it's known as the walking stick bamboo. But it's quite invasive. You can see if you look through the size and the spread of it. And we're right against the river, which suits it well here. But the reason we planted this is, one, it's very attractive, but two, it's actually competing with another invasive bamboo, which is a Victorian introduction called Sassa palmata, which is not so pretty. So one thug replacing another, if you know what I mean. I'm now going to bring you up. We're going to go up to the wishing steps. And the story with the wishing steps is you must go up them and down them in reverse with your eyes closed and think of nothing but your wish, and it will come true. I'm not going to do that today, but hopefully when you come in you can have a go. I'll tell you a bit more of the history when we get up, but I think just to experience the wishing steps will bring things into context a bit more. Now, I referenced last week, I was talking about the rock close, and I kind of mentioned Narnia and sort of myths, legends, witches, wizards, and you'll see why when we get up there. But this garden area was built in 1750s. The Jeffreys family owned the estate at the time, and these large pieces of limestone were moved into place with nothing but horses and manpower. So as we go up, look at the construction and try to imagine building it now, and then take yourself back and imagine the men that had to put these things into place. This was no little undertaking. So we have signage throughout the estate where we try to tell little bits of the story, let's say, as people are wandering around, and this just gives the basic instructions for the wishing steps. And we reference obviously the Blarney Witch and then what you're supposed to do, but we do say that the steps can be slippery and we take no responsibility, which is probably best. But as we're going up them now, just have a look. You'll also hear, I'm going to stop talking as we go because the waterfall in itself is a lovely effect, and that's enough sound to be listening to. Imagine coming across that in an overgrown area of the gardens when you're out for a stroll. It really would be quite something. We tend to leave the gardens a little bit wilder in this area because it does very much suit the style. We are kind of a Robinsonian garden. But these wishing steps have a date on the top, 1757. So this was one of these follies, if you like, that were developed at the time. Now, a folly is said to be a structure that is not necessarily of any particular use, let's say, but it suggests or tells a story. So there could be random Roman ruins in somebody's back garden. It could be a temple to Apollo across a lake in an English country estate. Very surreal, often completely out of place, but something with a little bit of romance, a bit of story, a background, and was a fashion at the time that large estates were in competition, really. So who could create the most elaborate, the most unusual, and you know, Blarney Castle estate was one of them. And the Jeffreys family in the 1750s were very wealthy. This whole area of the gardens is testimony to that, and the fact that it has pretty much stayed the same and unchanged for the centuries just really bear testimony to what they did. So, wishing steps. We're now going to go and look at the witch's kitchen and one of our oldest trees on the estate, which is a big old Irish yew tree, Taxus baccata. It's the current Irish champion tree as well, which is great. But again, they built in this area, this kitchen space underneath the roots of the tree, and I have to show you it because it's amazing. Mind your head, Paul. We'll go inside in a second, but I really want to emphasize the tree first. So this tree is said to be in excess of 600 years old. It was very much a mature specimen when they developed the witch's kitchen, and they built the witch's kitchen actually underneath what would have already been a mature, impressive structure of a tree. But it's still in its full health, and it's a fabulous specimen, and it's worthy of being the tree of the year. But what I find most amazing is it's sitting on top of this rocky outcrop, and the rocks and the roots are intertwined. And as we go in, if Paul pans to the right, you'll see it's almost impossible to tell where the roots finish and the rock begins. Something very special. you'll see I'm now inside the witch's kitchen, and you can see the fireplace, and there is actually a chimney above us as well, which we'll show you on the way round. But this is said to be the home of the Blarney Witch, and she supposedly is the person who first told of the location and the powers of the Blarney Stone to Cormac McCarthy when he saved her from drowning. Now, it's said that at night she resides here in the cave and comes out to collect money which is left on top of the witch's stone, which we'll also show you shortly. And during the daylight she's banished back into the stone itself. So as with Blarney, there's always a story. But we're going to go round now. I'm going to just show you the tree from above, where the chimney exits, and then we're going to go look at the witch's stone itself. Very good, Paul. Run up quickly and you hang on. So this is the chimney, and this runs right down under our feet and down into the witch's kitchen. But if you look down at your feet now, you'd see the intricate spread of the roots of the yew tree, and behind where Paul is now is the actual tree itself. I mean, it's amazing to think this has been here for so long, and if we respect it and look after it, it's going to be here long after we're gone. And if trees could tell stories. But it's definitely my favourite tree on the estate. Just behind the witch's kitchen, down in a little grotto here, is the Druid's Cave. Now, historically, it's hard to believe, but often estates would employ a hermit to live in the cave and jump out and almost shock visitors. And it's said that the hermits were actually treated very well, in fact, and it was an in-demand profession, let's say, because they were well fed and cared for, but they had to look the part. We have a few people on the estate I could think of that could do that job. Right, we'll head over, because I'm not showing you many plants this time, but it's really more about the structures in here and the stories. This is the Witch's Stone, and Blarney is sitting on natural limestone outcrops, and often these stones are water worn and into interesting shapes, and I think what they really did is they took what they had around them and created stories with it. So the Witch's Stone, you'd see very obviously her nose, her brow, her eyes, and she actually has a hat as well, which I'm sitting on. And it's said that the hat used to sit atop her head, but again, it kept being dislodged and knocked off, so for health and safety reasons she's hatless, let's say. But that's given rise to a new tradition which has kind of developed over the last 10 years, is leaving money on top of her, which is said to pay for her firewood. I suppose in days long by people probably cut it, or she did it for herself, but nowadays things have got more commercial, so people like to leave a little thing here for her, and we get some interesting gifts. It's not always just money, but the local children tend to raid every now and again. But that's in context the area of the main area, let's say, of the rock close. We have a much wider area behind where we're filming at the moment, lots of little tracks and trails that lead into little grottos and little dells, and a very romantic space. And it's said that they created this area with kind of a nod to the Druids that was said to be here before them. And there's the Druid circle over to my right, which we're going to just go out through now, and we're going to finish just kind of looking across at the Pine Eaton, which is another area that we'll visit another day. But we'll head out this way anyway and back into the sunshine. So the Druid stones are said to be the inspiration behind the whole of the rock close development, and along with the dolmen itself, date back to prehistoric times. But the most interesting thing in this area, certainly from my children's point of view, is the sacrificial altar, which is just down behind us and is always good for a story, let's say. But again, you can see that the context, this area has been the same way for so long, and yet still to this day it remains one of the, certainly in my opinion, most interesting parts of the gardens. And I think that bears good testament to the people that built it originally. So I'm going to leave you there, and if you'd like to pop in with some suggestions for where you'd like to see next week, we try and accommodate people, but we're going to try and cover as much of the different areas as possible. I'm going to bring you out this way now. We're going to go out past the sacrificial altar. The flat top is where the sacrifices would have been left, and I wouldn't like to suggest what the sacrifices were, but I hope you enjoyed that little kind of walk through, and if you let us know what you think of things, we'll get back to you, and any questions feel free to ask and we'll do our best to answer them. Thanks very much.